God is wonderful. Everything we say about him is an understatement. He is wonderful, beyond description, higher and further than the reach of any words, however sublime. But thank God, by his gracious revelation, we can and do know much about him. But for every veil that is removed, another veil comes into view. No sooner has he guided us up onto higher ground than we lift our eyes to discover an even greater vista stretching before us and beckoning us on further to explore new wonders. Eternity will be too short to discover all there is. Eternity's hallmark will be wonder. And there is an allusion to this wonder which surrounds God and his works in the very name of the letter Alef. This spells Alef, the first letter of the Hebrew Alefbeit. Alef, Alef. Now, it's been observed that the three letters of which this name is composed, when reversed, spells the Hebrew word pele. So we'll do that, we'll reverse it. Lamed remains in the centre, of course. Now, this letter becomes this shape, but it's exactly the same letter. It's just a different shape because it's in a different position in the word. Now, this says pele, pele. And pele means wonderful. Or it can be translated mysterious or mystery or beyond understanding. God is pele. He is wonderful. And he's the doer of wonders. Thou art a God who doest wonders, the psalmist said in 77 verse 14. For that thy name is near, thy wondrous works declare, Psalm 75 verse 1. Now, this is important. The appellation pele, wonderful, is used solely in association with God himself. Never, never for any other, without any exception. Now, we'll return to this fact in a short while. The inscrutable mystery of God's character, the wonder of his being, is expressed weekly at the conclusion of the morning service in the synagogue by the singing of this 12th century song, Anim Zemirat, I will sing sweet melodies, or Shir HaKavod, Song of Glory. This beautiful song marvels at the varied manifestations of Israel's God throughout her history, alternately being described as an aged man with white hair, and then as a black-haired youth with sparkling dew on his head, as a warrior on the day of battle, and as a king whose crown of beauty is engraved with his glorious name, Yud-He-Vav-He. Amazingly, the song goes on to tell us that this wonderful being delights in us, even glories in us. I'm going to read a little bit of this to you. Let's look at this together. This is just such a beautiful song. Look at this. They saw you, now old, then young, your head with grey, with black hair hung. Age on the day of judgment, yet on the day of war, a young warrior with mighty hands they saw. Triumph like a helmet he wore on his head, his right hand and holy arm to victory have led. His curls are filled with dewdrops of light, his locks with fragments of the night. He will glory in me, for he delights in me. My diadem of beauty he shall be. His head is like pure beaten gold, engraved on his brow his sacred name, behold. And let's just finish with this part here. Look at this. He delights in his people. The humble he does raise. He glories in them. He sits enthroned upon their praise. Beautiful, beautiful words. You know, we may be reminded of Daniel's description of the Ancient of Days, Daniel 7:22, or of Solomon's description of his being like a young and vigorous deer on the mountains of spices, Song of Solomon, chapter 8, verse 14. Moses encountered the solemn lawgiver on Mount Sinai, Exodus 24:12, but he was grateful that the same became a fierce warrior at the Red Sea to defend them against their enemies, Exodus 14:14. And all of them are true. God takes many forms, whatever is necessary, and many, many more that haven't yet been written. He will be who he will be. Ehyeh asher ehyeh. You see, God cannot be framed or bound. He is a wonderful mystery. Being as God takes on all of these forms, to me it seems but a small step from here to go on to acknowledge that this same one could, if he chose, take on human form and walk amongst us. I mean, that wouldn't be too difficult, would it? In fact, the Old Testament scriptures forewarned the people a number of times that they should be expecting this very thing. Isaiah, speaking of the Messiah, tells us, "You shall call his name Pele, wonderful." Chapter 9, verse 6. Now, being as this term, wonderful, is used strictly and solely in connection with God, it follows that the Messiah would be God incarnate. It is for this same reason that we understand that Manoah, Samson's father, received not simply an angelic visitor, but the very Son of God himself. For he revealed his name was Pele, wonderful. Judges chapter 13, verse 18. The present blindness of the Jews to the Messiahship of Jesus is due in part to the sheer wonder and mystery of his identity. Inscrutable to human understanding, it can only be apprehended by faith, or better still, by grace through faith. The present effect of Israel's blindness is salvation for the world, whilst the opening of their eyes in time to come will prompt the resurrection of the dead. Paul said in Romans chapter 11, verse 15, "For if the casting away of them be the reconciling of the world, what shall be the receiving of them be but life from the dead?" What a day that will be. Now, it does seem strange that the learned of his day were unable or unwilling to believe in Jesus, but that a condemned and dying man on a cross beside him could believe. Socially ostracized tax collectors and prostitutes believed. Unlearned fishermen and despised Samaritans believed. Even a man who had been possessed of thousands of demons, Legion, and another who had sought to murder believers wherever he discovered them, Saul of Tarsus, they believed. They believed and were saved. They were saved in the Bible-approved way, by the revelation of the mystery of God in Jesus, the wonderful one. If you're interested, there is a link in the descriptions box below to the song Wonderful One by Paul Wilbur.